Okay, we're live.
Welcome everyone to the Otonabee Conservation Annual General Meeting. My name is Jeanette Levy-Smith and I'm the Chief Administrative Officer, Secretary and Treasurer here at Otonabee Conservation. This year we are live streaming our AGM on YouTube. Please take a few minutes to introduce yourself into the YouTube chat and let us know where you're watching from this evening. We have a few housekeeping items before we can commence. So board members and speakers and award recipients will be participating in the Zoom meeting. And at various times throughout the meeting, they will be asked to either come on and turn their video on and their audio on, and then sometimes they will be being brought out from our waiting room. Viewers will be able to post comments and questions in the YouTube chat, and these will be monitored. We may not have the time to take everyone's questions, but we certainly will try our best. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available afterwards on our YouTube channel for those of you who would like to view the meeting later. I will ask Chairman Ryan Huntley to take the meeting.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you, everybody. So I will call tonight's annual general meeting to order from the Otonabee Conservation Authority on January 26, 2023 at 7:07 p.m. With that, I will start with our land acknowledgement, where we respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to First Peoples and their care for and teachings about our earth, our relations, and may we honor those teachings. So good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight for our third virtual AGM. So despite us all not being in the same room this year, at least we get to use our technology to enable us for folks who can join us from far and wide. I see Meredith is going to keep an eye on the chat window, so feel free to post questions. And please bear with us as, even though we've had 3 years on Zoom, I'm sure somebody will talk to mute at some point during the evening. So as many of you know, recent provincial legislation has been challenging to many of the conservation authorities around the province. But here at Orca, we've been very fortunate that we've had very strong leadership and fantastic staff that have been able to help us organize and navigate our way to continue to perform the great services that we do. Everything from floodplain mapping, permitting, land management, to tree planting. Orca has always and always will be a significant role in, or have a significant role in protecting our watershed for generations to come. With that said, I would like to take this opportunity to thank and acknowledge the past board members that aren't joining us this session. That's Tracy Richardson, Diane Tarian, Kim Zippel, Paula Ward, Carl Mulher, Andy Mitchell, and Sherry Sinnis. We appreciate all the efforts and all the time that they've spent on the board and has got us to this great place. Now, our new CAO, Jeanette Levy-Smith, who took over the reins from Dan this summer, will be keen to introduce the new board members a little bit later, as well as provide a little highlight of everything that has gone on in 2022. But first, we have some housekeeping and some business that we need to attend to. And then we have Dr. Piggott with us tonight, who is our guest speaker. And then we will have some awards to hand out a little bit later than that. So without further ado, we should be getting ourselves started. So I will ask the board if they have any disclosure of pecuniary interests. Any at this time or when the time arises, please let us know. And seeing none, we move on to the approval of the agenda. Before I ask for an approval, there will have to make a couple of amendments to it, and that is under section B, the reports for approval. Section 2, we're going to add a 2.1, a 2.2, and a 2.3. That will be the election of the chair, the election of the vice chair, and the appointment of the audit committee. So with that, can I seek a approval of tonight's amended agenda? Thank you, Gary and Michael. All in favor? Approved. Thank you very much. Now I will pass this over to our CAO to perform the roll call.
Thank you, Chairman Huntley. So as all of our directors do have their cameras on. So with us this evening, Councillor Ron Ashmore. Say aye, please.
I'm present.
Aye. Good,
Thanks.
great. Okay. Councillor Gary Baldwin.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Ron Black.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Ryan Huntley.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Michael Metcalf.
Present.
Mayor Joe Taylor.
Here.
Councillor Don Vilisatis.
Aye.
And I believe that is quorum. And Mayor Patrick Wilford.
Here.
Great. Mr. Chairman, that is quorum for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Jeanette. It's our first order of business is report 2023-008, the amendments to the election procedures of officers. Would you like me to read this, Chair? Okay. So this is to allow us to actually perform the elections virtually. That's why we have to amend this for this evening. So the recommendations is, whereas the authority has decided to proceed with its annual general meeting electronically, and whereas the authority's elections procedures for officers is written cannot be applied when meetings are held electronically, and whereas the nominating committee is preparing the proposed slate of officers, contacted members of the board to ascertain their interest in position of chair, vice chair, and therefore be it resolved that the governance bylaw be amended to suspend the requirements to apply the election procedures for officials for the 2023 appointments for the chair and the vice chair positions. May I have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Joe and Ron. All those in favor? So approved. We can actually have an election this evening. All right. The next report is report 2023-009 and the nominating committee report for 2023. I will ask Joe Taylor, the chair of the nominating committee, to move the motion and the report from the nomination committee be received. Joe, you resolve the report from the nominating committee be received. Moved by Joe, seconded by Gary. All those in favor? So approved. Thank you very much. The next report is report. Oh, is that the right one? Annual report of resolutions. Titled the annual appointments and resolutions be received. But I received this report as well, please. Patrick and Ron, all in favor? Thank you very much. Now I'll invite our CAO, Lovey Smith, to conduct the proceedings for the appointment of chair and vice chair and the proceeding of the other annual appointments and resolutions for the and I will vacate the position of chair. All over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. So as the CAO and Secretary Treasurer here, I declare that all positions are now vacant here at Otonabee Conservation. And I will move into our election of the chair. So as that, I will ask Director Taylor to present the recommendation from the nominating committee for the position of chair.
Thank you very much, Jeanette. First of all, I want to acknowledge the contribution of Gary Baldwin and Michael Metcalf to the nominating committee. And I want to thank all the board members for considering the various positions and indeed the ones who have stepped forward and volunteered. It was a very smooth process, and I thought it worked well, and I certainly appreciate the assistance of the other two directors on this committee. It is a recommendation of the nominating committee that Ryan Huntley be appointed chair for the 2023 term.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. So I will read out the resolution. Resolved that Ryan Huntley, representative of the municipality of Cavan Monaghan, be appointed as chair of the Otonabee Region Conservation Authority for 2023. Is there a mover for that? I'm going to, yes. Great. Okay. Thank you. And all in favor? Thank you. And I would like to take the opportunity to congratulate our new chair on his appointment and invite you if you have any comments that you would like to make.
Thank you, board, for seeing fit to give me another run at this. I do appreciate that. I think I'll hold my comments very briefly this time, because last time I thanked everybody, the CAO retired at the next meeting. So I don't want that to happen again. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. So we will move on to the election of the vice chair. And again, I will ask Director Taylor to present the recommendations of the nominating committee for the position of vice chair.
Thank you, Jeanette. It is the recommendation of the nominating committee that Michael Metcalf be appointed as vice chair for 2023.
Thank you, Director. So I will read out the motion. Resolved that Michael Metcalf, representative of the municipality of Trent Hill, be appointed as vice chair of the Otonabee Region Conservation Authority for 2023. Do I have a mover for that, please? Mr. Taylor, and a seconder, Mr. Baldwin. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And I will take the moment to congratulate our new vice chair on his appointment, and also invite you if you have some comments that you would like to make at this time.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you to the board for putting me back in for a second year, and I look forward to working with the returning and the new board members in upcoming year.
Great. Thank you very much. So I will move on to the appointment of our audit committee. And again, I will ask Director Taylor to invite him to present the recommendations from the nominating committee for our audit committee.
Thank you, Jeanette. And it is the recommendation of the nominating committee that the audit committee for 2023 be comprised of directors Ron Black, Kevin Dugay, and Adam Ververt.
Thank you, Director. So I'm going to read out the resolution for that. Again, resolve that board members Ron Black, Kevin Dugay, and Adam Ververt be appointed to the Audit Committee for the Otonabee Region Conservation Authority for 2023. Can I have a mover for that, please? Michael Metcalf. And a seconder? And Don. And any all in favor? Great, thank you very much. And I will now move on to our other appointments that we have for this evening. Appointment as head of Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of the Privacy Act. And so I will read out the resolution. Resolve that the duties and responsibilities of the position of head for the Otonabee Region Conservation Authority under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Individual Privacy Act be assigned to Denise Landry, Manager of Corporate Services. Can I have a mover for that, please? Mr. Baldwin. And a seconder, please. Mr. Black, thank you. And all in favor? Wonderful, thank you very much. I'm also going to now move on to our appointment of our auditor, solicitor, and our financial institution. So again, I will read out the resolution for that. Resolve that the firm of Garland Hickey Chartered Professional Accountants be appointed as auditor for 2023. And resolve that the firm of LLF Lawyers be appointed as solicitor for 2023. And resolve that the Kawartha Lakes Union be appointed as the financial institution for 2023. Can I have a mover for that, please? Michael Metcalf, thank you. And Mr. Taylor. All in favor? Thank you very much. And we're almost to the end of our normal business resolutions. Our borrowing resolution. Again, resolve that the borrowing bylaw in accordance with section 3.5 of the Conservation Authorities Act be adopted to a limit of 1 million for the year of 2023. Can I have a mover for that, please? Okay, thank you. And a seconder? Sorry, I didn't catch somebody. Okay, thank you, Mr. Metcalf. And all in favor? Thank you. And one last order of business is our enabling resolution. And this resolve that staff be authorized and directed to do all things necessary to give effect to these resolutions. Mover for that, please. Mr. Black, thank you. And a seconder. Mr. Wilford, thank you. And all in favor. Thank you. That's great. I will now turn the functions of the chair back to Chairman Brian Huntley to conduct the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette, for getting us through that section of this agenda tonight. I'd ask at this point that the board members please turn your videos off as we enter into the presentation side of the evening. Almost, Pat. There you go. All right. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Thomas Piggott, our Medical Officer of Health, to our meeting. Welcome. So Peterborough welcomed Dr. Thomas Piggott on December 1st, 2021, right, the middle of the pandemic, to Peterborough. In his position as the Medical Officer of Health and the Chief Executive Officer of Peterborough Public Health, he brings experience of working at various levels of public health in Canada and internationally. Most recently, Dr. Piggott has been Medical Officer of Health and VP Lead for Population Health and Rural and Remote Health in the Northern Region of Labrador. Dr. Piggott has experience in collaborative Indigenous public health in Canada and internationally, and through the COVID-19 pandemic, he has led the response of solidarity with Indigenous governments in Labrador for the outbreak prevention and the fair vaccination rollout, prioritizing Indigenous communities. Dr. Piggott has previously served on the board of directors of the Public Health Physicians of Canada and the World Federation of Public Health Associates, and currently sits on the board of directors of the Canadian Public Health Association. We're delighted to host Dr. Piggott today as our keynote speaker, as he will address the linkages between climate change and public health. Welcome, Dr. Piggott.
Thank you so much, Chair Huntley. Yeah, thank you so much, Chair Huntley. Congratulations on your reappointment, and congrats to everyone on theirs as well. And it's such a pleasure to be here this evening. I am deeply grateful. I was surprised when Karen and Jeanette reached out to ask, and really honored. And I started thinking, is this something that I can talk about? What are the messages that perhaps I could leave with the Conservation Authority from the standpoint of public health? And Karen and Jeanette had indicated one of the talks that I did in the fall, just talking about climate change and the critical importance for public health would perhaps be of interest to the board and those attending. And so I thought, great, I will dig that up and talk again. But I wanted to start thinking about how I introduce this topic, because I'm not a climate change expert by any means. I'm not an expert in geoscience or in weather or in the changing climate. But what I am an expert in is public health and the health impacts that these things are potentially going to have. But then as I started thinking, where do I start? Where do I start the talk? I started thinking, well, actually, I've had an interest in been thinking about climate change for probably about twice as long as I have been working in public health. About 2/3 of my life, to be exact. So I thought to myself, I guess I could talk this evening. I could start this evening's talk with a story of how, as an 11-year-old, I did a science fair project at the school. I think there's a microfilm with a local newspaper front page with me on it, on the science fair project I did as an 11-year-old on the Kyoto Protocol and the impacts of climate change and solutions that were needed. Not to date myself there. I thought, well, I could start by talking about my first research project, which was as an undergraduate at the University of Guelph, and researching the health impacts of climate change for Indigenous peoples in Uganda, Ecuador, and northern Canada. And for Indigenous peoples, the changes happening to the climate have been known for far longer, as they have close relationships often with environments, and the impacts they're seeing have had an impact on life and lifestyle already. I thought, well, I could start by talking tonight about, my participation in caring about the climate as an activist, marching in protests, the climate marches, and participating in a global movement of younger people concerned about the climate that we're leaving the next generation with, or that we'll start seeing even greater changes of sooner. I thought I could start by talking about my time as a medical officer of health in the north of Canada, in Labrador, in a part of the country where we were already seeing significant alarming impacts of climate change. And every year, more people started going through the sea ice on snowmobiles, because traditional knowledge of sea ice routes and the safety of them was no longer relevant in a changing climate, and people were falling through the ice, dying, and there was significant acceleration of those challenges in Labrador. I thought, well, I could, start by talking about the derecho storm that all of you would have experienced just this past May, and one of, a number of increasingly frequent and severe weather events that are a signal of climate change and all that we have to do to adapt to them. But I ended up thinking, I think the most honest place to start would be to start with my biggest concern around the climate, which is my own kids. And I became a father in the several days leading up to the COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020, and now have two little girls. And it's really changed my outlook and perspective as a leader on what we need to do to protect this incredible environment we have. And I think hopefully today, in sharing a little bit about the realities of climate change, the local situation, and the impacts that it's going to have on health, hopefully I can encourage and spark more work through all of you and through the incredible staff at ORCA to do everything that we can to protect this beautiful region and the beautiful environment we have, because it's critical for our health and for my kids' future and all of our next generation in this region. Just to begin, I have no financial interest to declare, of course, recognizing that we're on Treaty 20 territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe, Treaty 20 territory Nogajiwanong, And I want to acknowledge that Peterborough Public Health serves Curve Lake First Nation and Hiawatha First Nation. Certainly we have folks joining today who are either current or former board members. So thank you to them as my employer. If you have participated in any of my talks, I really love to do this pop quiz question on what the life expectancy was in Canada in the year of Confederation. And I know that everyone's sort of turned off videos, but either into the chat or if you want to unmute yourself and take a guess if you haven't before, I'd love to hear people's guess as to what they think life expectancy in Canada was on average just over 150 years ago.
I'm going to cheat a little bit because I've seen this presentation before. I have 45.
45, 40. Okay, well, my current and former board members are the accurate ones here. Often I get guesses like 55, 60, right? So it was 43, and now the life expectancy in Canada is 82. Incredible. This is a near doubling of life expectancy in this country, and it's incredible how much we've been able to advance health. When you look at the graph of it, you can see that incline. So for hundreds of years, thousands of years, we as humans, Homo sapiens, lived on average about 40 years. Certainly some people would live longer. You'd hear stories of people living 70, 80 plus years, but the average was lower, especially with child mortality. But it's incredible to see with development, with how much better the world has gotten, how much life expectancy in Canada and really around the world has evolved. And not only are we living longer, but we're actually living better too. So if you look at the Canadian Index of Well-Being, people on average over the last few decades are reporting that life is better than it was before. And this is the story globally. When you look at life expectancy, it's increased globally. When you look at poverty, as much as there continue to be significant and sometimes increasing challenges in certain parts of the world, on average globally, poverty has declined tremendously from 3 in 4 people just a couple of generations ago to around 20%. And child mortality has also more than halved in the past 70 years as well. This is incredible human progress. And I say this because as we start to look at the impacts that we have had on our environment and the human impacts on the climate change emergency, sometimes called the anthropogenic impact on climate change, human-caused impact, the benefits that we've seen in improvement in well-being and health are directly related to the consequences we've seen over the same time period on the environment around us. So nearly every indicator, when you look at impacts on our environment, has been worsening, and most of them with an exponential curve, which is obviously deeply alarming. And this work from the most prestigious medical journal in the world and their work on planetary health, which I'll come back to. So why the acceleration in life expectancy and well-being, and why the acceleration in negative consequences on health? Well, the answer, in fact, is quite simple. Nearly all of that has to do with our addiction as humans to fossil fuels. And so as much as we talk about fossil fuels in a negative light because they have had such a tremendous negative impact on the climate, this has allowed us to accelerate industry and growth and have incredible economic growth and globalization and global awareness of health problems and address things and move on human development in ways that really we haven't as a species for millennia. So it's this double-edged sword. It's this challenge between the benefits that we have gotten and the negative impacts that we've had on the climate around us. I like the occasional donut, and here's the donut model of economics if you haven't seen it before. The benefits that I was mentioning, longer life expectancy, decreased child mortality, are all because our extraction of fossil fuels and impacts on the environment around us has brought our social foundation and brought health upwards. We have improved health. We have moved out of the center of this ring, and we have found this social foundation as a result of the extraction of our climate. But at the same time, in many ways, we've overshot and we're over extracting, we're overtaking from the planet around us. And this is breaking what's called the ecological ceiling. And certainly we think there's a safe spot. It's not clear exactly what that is, but now it's clear from signs on the climate around us that we're overshooting this ecological ceiling, and it's going to have consequences on not only the planet's health, but our health too. When you look at the consequences that are already being seen in health, you can see that biodiversity loss is resulting in increased pathogens, and I'll come back to this. The context of unplanned urbanization is leading to unhygienic conditions, vector-borne diseases, and severe weather events, as well as droughts and floods, are impacting food and health and well-being more broadly. Pollution is probably one of the leading causes of heart and lung disease globally, and poor air quality as a result. So there's tremendous linkages between the impacts that we're having on the environment and our direct health. When we look here in our own community, there is a significant concern with the changes that are already happening, that we are already seeing, and we have significant vulnerability, especially with an aging population, and therefore the need to adapt is more critical in this community than many others, because we know when severe storms come, when heat waves come, they will impact people, including older residents of our region, more severely. This is the trajectory we are on. This is a fixed trajectory. We can certainly limit and decrease the negative impacts as modeling shows, but we are in a warming climate, we are in a warming planet, and this is going to have significant local impacts. Of course, we know with the derecho storm and other severe weather events dating back, these are more frequent and more severe than they have ever been before. And beyond extreme weather events, there's also impacts more broadly in Ontario that are being witnessed already. This is not a future-oriented concern that we can push off to the next strategic planning cycle or the next cycle of council or the next generation. This is happening here and now, right as we speak. The impacts locally, just to show some evidence, Lyme disease, a condition once extremely rare, is increasing in frequency as the vector pushes its way north with warming climates and shorter winters. West Nile virus is increasing in frequency. We are seeing more waterborne and foodborne diseases as a result of the impacts of the environment. And the pandemic, even the COVID-19 pandemic, has a climate change link. So the figure on the left here shows, the closer proximity of both people, but also people and animals that leads to what's called a zoonotic leap, or the jump from an infection that impacts an animal species to humans. And this obviously was facilitated by how much globalization. When I looked at the flights out of Wuhan, China, early in the pandemic, they had gone up by nearly 8-fold in the last 15 years as the world flies all over the place and is more interconnected than ever. Other pandemics have been the result of the impacts of humans on the environment around them as well. And here's a figure just showing for Ebola virus, which is something we had to contend with when I was working with Doctors Without Borders in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Deforestation is leading to habitat loss and closer interactions with humans, and more likely jump of the infection again. The impacts are not just on infections and on injuries. It's also significantly on mental health. We know that there are going to be changes to livelihoods. There will be trauma. A phenomena among younger people, who I'd still consider myself among, is ecological grief or anxiety, a deep-seated concern with the planet that we're going to have in the next number of years. And of course, we know as increasing food insecurity worsens, there'll be rising food costs, but also the broader societal impacts may have concerning impacts on cost of living, rising homelessness, exacerbating problems that we're already obviously dealing with. These are complex issues. They're really hard to draw a straight line, cause and effect. And one of the most concerning parts of climate change is the degree of uncertainty. The fact that as we start to see changes, as we start to see, polar ice caps melting, there may be accelerations, there may be massive events that push this forward much faster than modeling estimates can even predict. And so with the uncertainty, it begs the need to take even more prudent and careful preventative action, doing everything that we can, not only to stop those impacts, but also to adapt life to the anticipated impacts. And that's where I think a big part of public health stands. But this is a global issue. This is an issue of global discussion. It's difficult. When we hear the statements like from the IPCC chair, we are at a crossroads. The decisions we are making now can secure a livable future. We have the tools and the know-how required to limit warming. Our chief public health officer of Canada, the person at the federal level responsible for public health, published her full report last year, focusing in 2022 on public health action against climate change. There is a call to action on this because we know the health consequences for humans, threaten all aspects of life. And she says, without immediate and effective action, climate change poses catastrophic risks for present and future generations. The provincial government is also taking, bold leadership and has set out bold priorities, including within the Ontario Public Health Standards. The Healthy Environment and Climate Change Guideline dictates that as health units, we need to do more. It's been very difficult for our health unit through the COVID-19 pandemic. We haven't had capacity to do much more than just that, but we're now starting to re-engage and work with partners, ORCA being one of them. Our board, and we have two members who are obviously on ORCA who are tremendous support to developing our new strategic plan, prioritized supports for people who are most vulnerable to the health impacts of climate change in supporting adaptations and reducing these negative health impacts. So we have a tall order of activities where we'll need to work with partners. Again, I'm not necessarily the expert in all of this, nor our staff, and we can't do this alone. We need to work with others, with folks in the community, to start to address these changes, especially so that we can adapt and reduce negative health impacts that are coming. In preparation for the talk, I had the chance to speak with Karen and Janet and review the climate change strategy and your former strategic plan. I imagine you'll be in the process of updating it. And I just want to say, I think there's some fantastic prioritization and work in this. I think there are many areas where you are doing tremendously important work, not only for human health, but for the health of our region, for the health of our environment around us. And I think there are some really important areas where we can collaborate, for public health and ORCA to collaborate. One is continued support for multi-barrier approach to source water protection. Obviously, this has taken much more attention in public health and conservation since Walkerton and the E. coli impacts and deaths that we're seeing there. Source water protection is critical, not just for the health of the environment, but for limiting waterborne diseases. And ORCA is doing incredible work prioritizing this, and we want to continue to work with you and support you. We need to work together, I think, to message, educate, and support policies that ensure an escalated and robust response to climate change for the health of our residents, and look to ways to align reporting on climate change. We need to be speaking the same language with our communication to the public, and we need to be talking about the health of our environment and the health of our residents in tandem so we can advance shared strategic objectives. I think ORCA does incredible work to support our region's wild and nurture a love for nature. And I think this is so important, not only because it's helpful for health, but because I think if people know what we have to lose, if they love nature as much as I, and I'm sure many of you do, I think they'll fight to want to keep it. And I think we can do more to improve equity and fairness in access to recreation. It's not equal now, and people who have less means may have less ability to get transportation out to some of the nature areas, or really access it and utilize it as best as possible. And I think given the health benefits of nature and recreation in nature, I think we can work more together to improve access. Just to show how important nature is for health, I'm pulling some slides from the park prescription program, which I'll come back to in a moment. But spending time in nature decreases stress, it decreases anxiety, it decreases chronic diseases of the lungs and hearts. It boosts memory, productivity. Seniors live longer if they live closer to walkable green spaces, and it decreases risks of cancer. For young people especially, moms who live in greener areas tend to have babies with healthier weights. Youth who spend time in nature are more resilient. Kids with more green space have higher test scores and graduation rates. Children who live on tree-lined streets have less risk of asthma. We know the health impacts and benefits of nature are tremendous. And for the community, children who spend more time in nature are more likely to grow up really caring about it, loving it, and protecting it. And we know that urban green spaces and access to good, green areas outside of them is really critical for the health of the environment around us. I wanted to share this because in preparing to talk to you tonight, I was reviewing something I hadn't seen in a little while, which is the Parks prescription program. And the idea is for primary care or other physicians, nurse practitioners, prescribers to be able to prescribe access to free conservation. And in preparing, I said to my wife, who's a family doctor, I said, hey, you should sign up, you should sign up for this program and prescribe to some of your clients. And she said, silly, I've been signed up for years. You're kind of late to the ball on this one. But she said, I've been thinking about it here in Peterborough, and it really doesn't help me because the only institution that's affiliated with parks in Ontario is Parks Canada. And of course, locks aside, the access to Parks Canada Park is not very accessible from Peterborough. And I thought, well, I'm speaking with Orca, maybe it's worth pitching for them to take a look at this parks program, and perhaps there are ways for either access to Warsaw or elsewhere to be supported in some way, to allow people to actually have their healthcare provider suggest that time in nature is really important for their health. So something perhaps to leave us on and think about. Hopefully you recognize this beautiful magical spot and the picnic table there. One of my favorites in the region. I'm just so grateful for the work that you're doing and our opportunities to collaborate. I think as much as I am deeply concerned about the livability and the future that I'm going to leave for my daughters, I think I'm so encouraged and inspired by the work of incredible people like Jeanette and her whole team who really care about our environment and our planet and the work that we need to be doing to protect it. So I really look forward to continuing to work. Hopefully there's some questions or discussion. And again, a deep thank you for the invite tonight and for the opportunity to chat. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Piggott. We do have a couple of quick questions for you. First of all, thank you for covering so much information here about the global climate change challenges, and also right down to our local situation here as well. The donut economics model really does show us how everything is so connected. Through that, you and through your presentation, you mentioned many things that might seem really big for people: emissions and pollution and ocean acidification, extraction, severe weather. I'm wondering if you can, for the folks that are watching today who might be feeling, and I think we've all felt a little overwhelmed at times about some of these big issues that seem a little bit out of reach for us. what do you see as the best way for people watching today, this evening, to address some of these concerns locally themselves?
Well, Karen, I mean, I think I struggle with that question just because I think that the challenges are so large and surmountable, like you say, that we need governments, we need leaders, we need, you know, politicians, the folks on your board and others to really lead the charge on this. I don't think that these are issues that are surmountable at an individual level. You know, can you imagine even, you know, looking to the pandemic response, how we said everyone's on their own and we're not in this together and doing it all and doing the research for the vaccine and the work to you know, respond and protect our health system. I think this, you know, climate change is an issue that needs the efforts of organized society, of government to lead the charge on. But that being said, you know, beyond getting involved and encouraging those in leadership to do their very best, I think one thing that everyone can do is just themselves spend more time in nature and protect our wild, protect our nature, enjoy it, and foster a love for it for others. Because I think if people genuinely do see, and especially in this beautiful region, I've only been here for just over a year, but this region and the waterways and the rivers and the parks are incredible, and we're so fortunate to have it. I think if people spent more time in them, I think that they would realize just how lucky we are and how critical it is to continue to protect it.
Thank you. Just have another question here about, you mentioned the recent call to action, and can you tell us what is actually being done now with that call to action from Teresa Tam that you mentioned in your presentation, and how is that flowing through to actual action now?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of work being done federally, and the Public Health Agency of Canada is involved. We've been hearing about supports that they're putting together for communities to do their own vulnerability assessments and climate change action plans. I attended a presentation just a few weeks ago about this, and they're doing a lot of work to educate. But I mean, I think certainly there's always more to be done, and the work at the federal level requires so much local contextualization and work. I mean, on the climate change front, our Board of Health certainly put forward some pretty significant and bold priorities for us to get engaged, especially around adaptations to climate change. And I think that's encouraging, but you know, we don't have the resources, the means really to lead the charge on a lot of this. And it's tough because maybe the same for Orca or others. I think this is where we all need to really come together more and do everything we can in collaboration to figure out who can do which pieces and how can we put you know, collective energies and efforts and resources together to work all towards the same priorities and goals.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just seeing in the chat here over on YouTube, somebody has said, Lori has said, we have so much work to do. And I think Lori's right, and we do very much look forward to working together with public health, especially with some of those great ideas you've put forth today. Thank you. I'll pass this over to Chair Huntley now, and thank you very much, Dr. Piggott.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you for all the YouTube questions as well. We are extremely lucky, Dr. Piggott, to have you in our area, and all your great ideas and everything, your energy that you bring with you. I did have one question for you, though. I was looking at your, when you flashed by I think it was like a state of wellness chart, and it really took a dip in 2008 there. It's amazing how much, like, you know, one event or as an event can skew a chart.
Yeah, the index of well-being, that would have been the economic crisis. And you know, Ryan, they haven't updated the Canadian index of well-being since 2015, I think, is the last data. I'd be really curious. I'm sure if my experience in the last few years is anything, I'm sure our well-being has worsened in what's, you know, the biggest pandemic in a century. Obviously, our well-being's, you know, closely tied to the economy and the context of everything. And I think, just to point back to the donut chart too, that's where this tension is. I think, you know, it's not just as straightforward as fossil fuels are evil and bad and and the history and the context is that our extraction and our last 100 years have really propelled the most incredible advancements in human well-being possible, but they're now clearly at the consequences of the planet around us. So how do we rebalance and find that sweet spot in the donut? Because obviously we need business and industry, and here locally, hopefully we can find lots of ways to capitalize on green energy and economy and initiatives. These aren't my areas, probably more in the realm of all of you. But I think it's always a balance, and I think we just need to figure out where's that balance again.
Absolutely, it's about the balance. Again, thank you very much for your presentation tonight, and welcome to Peterborough in our area. We love your energy.
Oh, geez, nice to see you again.
All right.
On Zoom instead of a hockey rink, yeah. Well, if there's no more questions, I'm sure you have more for your meeting this evening, Jeanette and Karen, or maybe you don't, and I'll leave you back to your Thursday night, but I appreciate the invite.
No problem. Are there any questions from directors? Oh, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Dr. Piggott, for the presentation. I do have a question. I got a comment first. So I became more concerned with what we're now calling climate change when I became a grandfather. I have 3 grandchildren now, and I look ahead to their future. They have a lot more years on this planet, hopefully, than I do. And what are we doing to them? What are we doing to their future? I think it's a concern of mine, and I think that we should all be asking ourselves that question. We have to be careful, in my view, we have to be careful about how we address the issue to people who still don't think it's a problem. What we need to be cautious of is blaming every gray cloud that comes in the sky, every weather event on climate change, because that's the boy who cried wolf theory. So what we need to do is look at stats like the one you presented that show an upward trend in temperatures over a longer period of time. And that gives us a true picture of what is happening. Individual events may or may not be attributed to so-called climate change, but the overall trend is attributed to something. My question, though, after those comments is, why, for a while, we were calling it global warming. And to me, that seems like more of a phrase that would cause concern than climate change. Global warming is something you can actually track. Climate change is hard to determine what weather event is related to it or what isn't. And really the concern is with the warming of the planet. Why can't we just keep calling it global warming?
Well, thank you, Mayor Taylor, and thanks for your reflections on your grandchildren as well. I think it's something my parents are certainly thinking about, and that bothers me more than before I had kids. I think you raise a number of really important points, and communication on this is a real challenge, and is an increasing challenge. And it's an increasing challenge in the context of even misinformation out there, right? Because there's a lot of controversy and misinformation being shared. Even some of the same actors and folks that were protesting and had concerns with vaccines and some of the misinformation around the pandemic are also people who have other beliefs, sometimes beliefs around a denial of the changing climate, or beliefs around the world being flat, all kinds of other beliefs, to be honest, and this presents a real challenge. So I think honesty and integrity in messaging is critically important. I think one of the challenges, and often why people want to link weather events, is to make it feel a bit real, because when you look at those slow and steady increasing weather graphs, it doesn't really feel personal and real and like something that's impacting us. And it's not quite as simple as the temperature just progressing over time, because in some parts of the world that may be the case, but in others we may see declines in temperature. I mean, it's been a relatively cool winter. It's been a bizarre winter, but it's been relatively cool. And so we we've moved to an understanding that in different parts, the weather may be different on a day-to-day basis, but the climate, the weather over decades is warming and is increasing and is changing. For instance, there's been a lot of attention and interest in the recent, we've had some colder winters in the last little bit. And for some people that are denying the existence of climate change, they've perhaps said, maybe this is not true. Maybe we're not in the context of global warming because look, we've had some cooler winters. But scientists actually think changing integrity of the polar vortex is potentially to blame. And again, this is above my area of expertise as a doctor, but my understanding is the air currents of the polar vortex are becoming destabilized and heading further south. So in fact, you're seeing less cool temperatures in the polar regions of our planet and sometimes cooler temperatures in other regions as it's being destabilized. I can share you a bit more if you're interested in learning more about some of the latest science, but the reality is it's not clearly just increasing temperature. It's a broad range of changes that are from this anthropogenic or human-caused climate change, from fossil fuel use and addiction, and it's going to have multifaceted impacts, sometimes different in different parts of the world. Often people are talking about the climate emergency, which I think is probably a good phraseology or terminology too. Of course, like you say, you don't want to cry wolf around the wrong thing, but overwhelmingly, the experts around the world in this know that we're headed in the wrong direction, and we're headed towards a planet that may not be livable or may have significant health impacts with significant negative impacts, and that's obviously concerning. So, I mean, it's something I spend a lot of time thinking about, and our team's thinking about. And this year, one of our big goals is to work with partners such as Orca to think more about how you communicate this to the public in ways that is clear, honest, accurate, and also meaningful, so that people really, really hear the messages. I don't know if that helps me or Taylor. I'd be curious for more of your thoughts too, if you have them. But and many of you, I'm sure many of you have experts and been thinking about this and in communication a lot. But I appreciate the question.
No, thank you very much. That's well answered, and I appreciate it. It's scary. It's not just a public health thing. It's a planet health. And
it is.
If this carries on, the planet is going to be inhabitable. That's
in jeopardy, totally. And so to your grandchildren and my daughters and all of our loved ones, no matter how young or old they be, I think it's just on all of us as leaders. And I put everyone on this Zoom call, and perhaps even those watching on YouTube in the camp, to know that at the end of the day, we've done everything that we can.
Sorry, there we go. I just first one talked to mute. Thank you, Dr. Piggott. Any further questions before we let you go? Yes, not seeing any. Thank you again, and look forward to continuing our great partnership with Peterborough Public Health and yourself.
Thank you, Chair Huntley. Thanks for the time, and good luck with all of your work and the tall order of all that is conservation, your upcoming strategic plan discussions, and always, Jeanette, happy to work together, help. But again, thanks for the invite tonight. No better place to spend a Thursday night.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, and with that, I will invite Jeanette Levy-Smith to give us a recap of 2022.
Thank you, Chairman Huntley. So I'm here to give a year in a review for 2022. So unlike our previous years of 2020 and 2021, a new normal started to emerge for Otonabee conservation. While we still wear masks in the office and in vehicles, and virtual meetings are still a part of how we do business, life seems to have settled into a new normal for us here at Orca. And for all of our pivoting and adapting we did over time, it has made us a more resilient and stronger public sector organization. In the spring of 2022, our former CIO, Secretary Treasurer, announced his retirement. And Dan was at the Orca team for almost 9 years and led the organization through significant challenges and transitions. Dan would also refer to him as a policy wonk. And I would be amiss if I didn't mention that we here are the beneficiaries of his wonkiness. On a personal note, from Dan to myself, from me, my sincere thank yous for how you left the organization. The investments of the past 2 years in our online services and technology continues to be the preferred method for many of our customers and clients. People can reserve a camp site online, can make an application for a Section 28 permit online, and obtain a permit to hunt on our lands. We've made greater use of our website and other social media platforms to communicate information about our programs and services. And we are excited about what 2023 holds for us in this regard with a new website and platforms. Our monthly newsletter called Your Watershed News continues to spread its reach and is a popular method for our communications. We saw an increase in the number of people using our conservation areas in 2022. Our online survey that we launched to gather information about their experiences and receive suggestions and improvements, which helps to inform our programs and services. In 2022, we saw 25% of the people who responded to the survey were visiting one of our conservation areas for the very first time. In addition to the transition of the CAO role to me in July, staff's workload consumed an exciting number of new capital projects. In June, we received confirmation that we would receive over $1 million in FedDev funding for work on the Jackson Creek Trail and 3 washroom projects at Selwyn Beach, Haroldstown, and Squirrel Creek conservation areas. It has certainly been a team effort completing these projects on time, and we appreciate the cooperative working relationship we have with our contractors and our member municipalities. The community fundraising for the Jackson Creek Trail over the 2 years has been a huge success, and we have raised over $60,000, which speaks to how much the trail is cherished by the community. We are extremely proud of our collaborative working relationship with Curve Lake First Nations and the Cultural Center staff, and we will see them later this evening. We hosted an increased number of campers for a total of 28,551 in 2022, and Beaver Mead Campground had a record year in revenues. Staff responded to a year-over-year increases in the number of planning and permit inquiries and applications. We received 376 applications and 393 permits. The new service standard, which was established in 2021, was again tracked and reported on in 2022. The monitoring and modernizing that we have done in our organization to ensure the effectiveness will continue to be a key objective for staff. We responded to more inquiries for advice and stewardship on land restoration projects. We sold 14,000 tree saplings to 115 different landowners, and in the fall planted over 30,000 trees, shrubs, and wildflowers with our municipal partners. We continue to focus on keeping people safe and property safe. We issued 14 flood-related messages and responded to drought conditions. We continue to support the municipalities in the delivery of the Clean Water Act by providing risk management functions and education programs. Throughout 2022, staff came together to help each other and to respond to this increase in demand for our programs and services. I want to thank them for welcoming me to the ORCA team, and I look forward to continuing the positive relationships we've already started to build together. And finally, I would like to thank the board for their leadership and support. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here at Otonabee Conservation. That ends it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette, and we can't wait to see what you do with a full year on the board or on the Otonabee Conservation Authority. And with that, it brings us to the next section of our evening, which is the Environmental Excellence Awards. So, 2023 marks our 9th year that the Environmental Excellence Awards have been presented to the worthy individual groups and organizations. The purpose of these awards is to recognize the actions and to protect and promote a healthy watershed, to profile the work undertaken on the ground by individual groups and organizations, to inspire others to become actively involved in watershed health. Tonight, I'll be calling on different board members, one by one, to introduce this year's recipients. I'd now like to ask Director and Vice Chair Michael Metcalf to present the Environmental Excellent Business Award. Can you please turn on your video and present your award?
Thank you, Chair Huntley. The Environmental Excellence Award for Business recognizes a business that has made a significant contribution to conservation projects or programs advancing Otonabee Conservation's vision of a healthy watershed. This evening, we are pleased to present the Environmental Excellent Business Awards to David Bonzel, Director at DM Wills, and joining him as Rajiv Shan, Manager of Structural Engineering. DM Wills Associates Limited is a multidisciplinary firm offering civil, structural, and water resources engineering, along with land use planning and environmental services in Peterborough and across Ontario. Outside of their professional services, DM Wills is active in the community and has sponsored many local events, including Otonabee Conservation's Discovery Days event in 2019 to encourage the public to learn about heritage, nature, and the outdoors. For 15 years, under the leadership of David Bonzel, DM Wills has provided support for inspections and maintenance of Otonabee's water control programs. Over the past 6 years, DM Wills has provided Otonabee Conservation with project management, contract administration for engineering, design, and project management on numerous infrastructure projects for the Conservation Lands Program. Some of these programs include structural assessments at Brookwood Wildlife Area, multiple years of work on the Jackson Creek Trail, including engineering and design, tendering support, and construction project management for Jackson Creek Trail bridge replacement, refurbishment plans, engineering, and design for erosion drainage repairs, tendering support and construction project management for bridge repairs in support of the Jackson Creek Trail Revitalization Project, engineering and design, tending support, and construction project management for the Warsaw Caves Gatehouse and the Harrowtown, Selwyn Beach, and Squirrel Creek accessible washrooms, which are currently being installed, with Rajiv coordinating the structural design of the washroom facilities. Managing construction projects has been particularly challenging in the recent years during the pandemic, with widespread difficulties sourcing materials and contractors, managing rising costs, and executing project timeline requirements. David has gone above and beyond to ensure that the Otonabee Conservation's projects have been successful in these ever-changing times. David has been instrumental in sourcing a construction team to take on the 3 accessible washroom projects with very tight timeline requirements. He has also worked closely with project partners to negotiate the costs to meet the authority's budget requirements. David and his team continues to provide quick turnaround times to review and authorize construction documents from the contractor to keep the projects moving forward and on schedule. He's always provided an exceptional level of expertise when dealing with structural engineering, design, project management, and contract administration services for Otonabee Conservation. I'd like everyone to please join me in thanking and congratulating David Bonzo along with Rajiv Shan from DM Wells for their Environmental Excellence Business Awards. Hold up that award, David, and if you want to say a few words, you're welcome to join in.
Thank you, Vice Chair Metcalf. Hopefully I'm there. On behalf of DM Wills, we are very proud to receive the Business Excellence Award We do much work in the community. The business has been going for 35 years. And, most of our practice is private and, of course, for all our municipal clients. But where we get the most enjoyment is the projects that affect the community, and projects like the ones that you mentioned for Otonabee conservation are especially important locally. So we do take pride in that work, and we're glad to be recognized for it. So thank you to the committee and to Otonabee Conservation for this opportunity.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Rajiv. And thank you for to the rest of your team. And back to you, Chair Huntley.
Thank you, Mr. Metcalf, and thank you very much, David and Rajiv. We've definitely appreciate all the very hard work that you do, and answering the call when required.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, next, I would like to call forth Director Joe Taylor, who will present the Environmental Excellent Conservationist Award. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Chair Huntley. As a member of the Board of Directors of the Conservation Authority and as Mayor of Otonabee South Monaghan Township, it's my pleasure to present the Environmental Excellence Conservationist Award. This award recognizes an individual or family who demonstrate leadership and inspires others to understand and become engaged citizens within our natural environment. This year, we are pleased to present this award to Robert Crowley and family. Beginning in the fall of 2020, Robert Crowley partnered with Otonabee Conservation to plant 4,500 trees on the family farm in Otonabee, South Monaghan Township. Robert has contributed an endless amount of time, supplied equipment for the preparation of the site before planting, provided funding, assisted with the planting of trees, engaged family and friends in the planting process, and collaborated with Otonabee Conservation staff to assess the ongoing survival and health of the trees. These efforts make a significant contribution to mitigating climate change impacts. A single tree sequesters around 220 to 225 kilograms of carbon in its lifetime. The 4,500 trees planted on the Crowley family farm will sequester over 1 million kilograms of carbon over their lifespan of about 80 years. While mitigating the effects of climate change, these trees also enhance habitat and increase biodiversity. Robert has also provided opportunities for students and volunteers to visit his family farm to assist with the tree planting activities, enabling participants to engage in real opportunities to work on the landscape and enhance the local environment. We are pleased to present the Crowley family with the Environmental Excellence Conservationist Award for their demonstrated commitment to enhancing the health of the Otonabee region watershed and setting an amazing example for current and future generations. Congratulations to Robert, Crowley, and family. Thank you. And is Robert there?
We're just having a few technical difficulties with bringing Robert's audio and video into the meeting, but he is trying right now. We'll leave him in the meeting to see if we can connect him while we can move on with the other awards.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Taylor. Next, I'll ask Director Gary Baldwin to present the first of 2 Environmental Excellent Partnership Awards. Over to you, Mr. Baldwin.
Thank you, Chair Huntley. The Environmental Excellence Conservation Partnership Award is given to a municipal partner or agency who has made a significant positive contribution to furthering the objectives of Otonabee conservation in one or more areas of the authority's operations. Tonight, I'm pleased, very pleased, in fact, to recognize Gillian Barnes from the City of Peterborough. Gillian is the city's manager of facilities and planning initiatives. Otonabee Conservation has recently worked with Gillian on several projects that have enhanced habitat, increased biodiversity, showcased sustainable practices, and helped to mitigate climate change. Gillian was supportive of the partnership between Otonabee Conservation, TD Friends of the Environment Foundation, and the Brock Mission to include the planting of over 300 native trees and shrubs on the site of the new shelter to offer a safe outdoor space for residents and increase green space in the city of Peterborough. Gillian has been deeply involved in the upgrades at Beavermead Campground, which is owned by the city of Peterborough and operated by Otonabee Conservation. Recently at Beavermead Campground, Gillian managed 2 construction projects, a new fully accessible comfort station and sustainability built mass timber gatehouse, which is a natural, renewable, and sustainable building material, providing a low carbon footprint and aligning with the city's climate action plan. Gillian was always considerate to include Otonabee Conservation staff feedback and requirements into the design and construction of these projects, and involve staff as part of the project team during the infrastructure projects. After the gatehouse construction completion, Gillian reached out to collaborate with Otonabee Conservation to facilitate the use of native plants for landscaping around the new building. The project was completed in October of 2022 and included the installation of a rain garden and a native plant garden at the Beavermead Gatehouse. The designs for both gardens were created by Otonabee Conservation with support from Greenup and installed with the help of students from the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board Youth Leadership and Sustainability Program. Gillian was supportive of incorporating techniques to capture runoff by building the rain garden, which was designed to capture runoff from the roof of the new gatehouse, which is then temporarily stored in the garden during a storm event and slowly drains away, reducing flooding, filtering pollutants, and channeling runoff into the ground. This garden is now a demonstration site at the campground for an average of over 17,000 campers who visit each season to showcase sustainable landscaping techniques and to enhance habitat with over 100 native trees, shrubs, grasses, and flowers that also increase biodiversity in the city of Peterborough. The Beavermead Gatehouse Garden Project also enables students from the local youth leadership and sustainability class to assist, providing hands-on learning opportunities for students. Gillian Barnes has managed projects in partnership with Otonabee Conservation that clearly facilitate and demonstrate the city of Peterborough's commitment to enhance local sustainability and support community efforts to adopt sustainable practices. We look forward to continued collaborations that will support the shared mission of conserving, protecting, and enhancing a healthy, natural environment in the Otonabee region watershed. Please join me in congratulating Gillian Barnes and the City of Peterborough, winner of the Environmental Excellence Conservation Partnership Award. Congratulations, Gillian.
Congratulations, Gillian. Do you have anything you'd like to add or comment?
Sure. Good evening. Thank you. I'm very honored to receive this award. It's always a great pleasure to work with the staff. They're so dedicated and professional at Otonabee Conservation, and it's always wonderful to work with them together on a project. And I really look forward to doing many more projects together in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gillian. I can get you guys to remove yourselves.
And there we go.
Excellent. So I'm left to present the last of the awards this evening for environmental excellence. And I have the Environmental Excellence Conservation Partnership Award to be given to a partner agency who has made a significant positive contribution to furthering the objectives of the Otonabee Conservation in one or more areas of the authority's operations. And this evening, I would like to honor and celebrate Otonabee Conservation's partnership with the Curve Lake First Nations Cultural Center by presenting Ann Taylor, Tracy Taylor, Elijah Braden Taylor, and Jack Hogarth with the Conservation Partnership Award. Members of the Curve Lake First Nations Cultural Center have collaborated with Orca on several sign projects to coordinate and translate elders and community members from the Curve Lake Nations so that the Ojibwe language can continue or can be included on various signs and sites throughout the Otonabee watershed and the First Nations Reserve. Otonabee, or the Ojibwe and English language, are now included on signs on drinking water source protection, Micanac, or turtle crossing signs to help encourage drivers to watch out for, avoid, and help Micanac to cross roads during nesting season, and most recently on signs along the Jackson Creek Trail. Translations on the Jackson Creek Trail signs include species names of birds, trees, and wildlife. Future projects are being planned to add an audio component to these educational signs via QR codes and linkages so visitors to the Jackson Creek Trail can see and hear the Ojibwe language while out and along the trail. Recently, the Curve Lake First Nations Chief Keith Knott spoke to the Jackson Creek Trail reopening event, referring to the Otonabee Conservation, the First Lake Nations, as neighbors, and recognized that neighbors help each other and work together. The Curve Lake First Nation Cultural Center has been a wonderful and gracious neighbor, sharing their knowledge, their language, and assisting Orca staff with matters relating to local translations and protocols as a starting point to establish respectful, positive relations between neighbors. We're honored to celebrate and our shared projects with our neighbors. Please join me in congratulating Anne Tracy and Elijah Taylor and Jack Hogarth of the First Nations Cultural Center with the Environmental Excellence Conservational Partnership Award. And thank you. I know, Tracy, if you'd like to honor us with a few words.
Yes, good evening. Thank you. We're so honored to receive this, especially working with the staff. It was fun, and gathering all this translations for the signs is so important, and to have everybody go through those trails and see that will be so enlightening. And again, thank you so much for this.
Excellent. Thank you for all your hard work and the translations as well. Thank you. So moving on now, we move on to our staff service awards. So I will ask Jeanette to return. Thank you, Jeanette.
Thank you, Chair Huntley. So again, we're getting to sort of the bottom part of our agenda and evening this evening, but we have an opportunity at every annual meeting. We recognize employees who have achieved milestones in their service here at the authority. This year, we are recognizing 5 individuals who collectively have worked at Otonabee Conservation for 95 plus years. I'm going to say that again, 95 plus years. That's a lot of time, a lot of dedication. So to help me prepare for these recognitions, I was fortunate enough to be able to spend some time with each of the staff to get to know them a little bit better, to listen to their stories and to share in some of their experiences. The staff being recognized this evening for their dedication, expertise, and customer service. So the first staff member I'm going to have is Matt Wilkinson. And I think Matt is just joining us. Matt, do you want to turn on your camera?
It appears we have lost Matt from the connection from the meeting. I'll try and get him back on.
Okay, I'm going to.
Sorry, Jeanette, if you don't mind if I interrupt you for 1 second. I believe we have Robert Crawley, who has received the award. Maybe we can bring him on with Mr. Taylor to say a few words, if that's still possible.
Absolutely. Robert, are you able to connect with us? I can see you there. Mr. Chair, I think he's still having some connectivity issues.
We'll keep our eye open for him, and
Yeah,
if you can
absolutely.
continue with the staff awards.
Absolutely. So I'm going to carry on, and I know I can see actually Matt is also again connecting. So Matt, do you want to turn on your camera as well?
Now the button's working.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for joining us this evening, Matt. I've enjoyed seeing all the different pictures there. So Matt has been with Otonabee Conservation for 5 years and currently holds the position of planner. Matt also held the position of environmental technician for 1.5 years before taking a break from Orca and going to work at MNFR. He made his way back to us, which is great, and first as a planning and regulations officer, and then moving into his current position. So in some ways you could say he's been here for more than 5 years, but not consecutively. Matt is responsible for working with our member partners in the plan review and permit process, and provides technical advice to assist municipalities in our watershed in fulfilling their land use planning responsibilities. He is a champion of safe development and takes the time to assist, support, and proactively communicate with our partners and our clients. Relationships are very important to Matt, and he intentionally takes the time to have those conversations with people and listen to their perspectives. As the new CAO here, I can say that I too have benefited from Matt engaging with me and sharing his knowledge and his expertise. Matt has a strong interest and talent in solving problems. He starts from a place of understanding what do we have and what do we need before he jumps in. This has undoubtedly sharpened Matt's problem-solving skill sets and communications over time. What you might not know about Matt is that he is also an accomplished professional chef for 15 years. And he enjoys cooking dishes that make people happy and smile. His cooking talents are not wasted on the home front now, as he has 3 young boys to cook dinner for. Please join me in thanking Matt for his contributions to Otonabee Conservation. Matt, thank you very much for joining us this evening and for your years of service. The next staff member is Bruce Flemons. I'm going to make sure he's coming on just as we get. So Bruce, would you like to put your camera on, please? I'm going to start, and I know that I can see Bruce there, so we will start. Oh, there he is. Wonderful. Good evening, Bruce.
Hi there.
So Bruce Flemons has been with Otonabee Conservation for 15 years and currently holds the position of supervisor at Beaver Mead Campground. Prior to his permanent role, Bruce held positions such as the Natural Hazards Policy Analyst, Watershed Technician, and Water Resource Technician. Like many dedicated staff here at Orca, Bruce started working in various contract positions over many years and before being made permanent in 2015. Some might call Bruce a jack of all trades or a Renaissance man, but I know we will all call Bruce friendly, helpful, committed, and positive. Bruce has a deep affection for our commitment to our safe work environment and opportunities to apply his skills in different ways and the teamwork that is here. Bruce's experience and knowledge are being put to good use as we bring on the Lakefield campground. I appreciated getting to know Bruce a little bit better when we both attended the Conservation Lands workshop and when we are also out in the field together. Bruce's welcoming smile, ability to make people feel comfortable, his politeness, and his love for his dog, Maya, all keep Bruce grounded and genuine. Thank you. Please join me in thanking Bruce for his contributions of 15 years to Otonabee conservation. Bruce, what did you get for your picture?
I got a beautiful frog. I really appreciate the award, and I really appreciate all the staff that I've worked with over those 15 years, and it's been a great place to work, and I'm continuing enjoying working here, so it's a great place.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so now I'm going to move on to present the next award to Kim Duke. So there she is. So Kim has been with Otonabee Conservation for 25 years and currently holds the position of administrative assistant. Kim first started at Orca in a contract position in May of 1998. And over the years held positions of office assistant, secretary, and receptionist. With a job title such as Kim's, it would be fair to say that she really is the glue that keeps it all together in the background. On one of her very first tasks when she first arrived, she was asked to prepare the board of directors agenda package. Something that she continues to do with dedication all these years later. When looking back, Kim remembers when Orca had one computer in the basement, and it was her job to go downstairs and check that computer for messages 3 times a day. She's a firm believer in our organizational mandate, and she's always there to support the board and staff in any way she can. And for me as the new CIO, Kim has been instrumental in supporting me. Kim loves the diversity of her work that each day brings, and that's something new and something different. And she's also very proud of her professional development, her skills that she has grown over the years, and her learning that she has successfully completed. When asked what artifacts Kim might bring from her, what she might have for 25 years here, she often refers to her loved fleeces that she has. So she, in the office, she has a variety of fleeces with all the various logos throughout the time of 25 years. But she also had in her artifact a dictaphone, if you can imagine. She still had it in her drawer. So please join me in thanking Kim for her many contributions over 25 years. And Kim, you have your picture there. Wonderful. Kim, did you want to say a few words?
I would just like to thank the staff that I've worked with over the years, the board members. It has been an awesome experience, and I won't say I'm looking forward to the next 25, but maybe the next 10 or so.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you very much, Kim. Okay. The next, I'm going to go on to the next staff member who is to receive an award this evening, and that's Meredith Carter. So there she is. Wonderful. So again, Meredith Carter has been with Otonabee Conservation for 25 years and currently holds the position of Manager Watershed Management Program. Meredith started at Orca here as a watershed planning coordinator in June of 1998. What Meredith's employees file did not say or did not include is that Meredith actually started here at Orca in a volunteer role as vice chair of the Otonabee Conservation Foundation Board. And she worked over many hours managing many annual fundraising events. So she was a volunteer with us before she became an employee for 25 years. Again, like many dedicated staff here at Orca, Meredith started her employment with contracts and over time held a number of different positions, including a community development coordinator responsible for the Watershed's 2000 report. She has developed a number and responsible for a number of different program areas. She's worn very many different hats over time, and she has adapted to organizational changes. Meredith is very passionate about her work and the mandate here at Orca, and it never is the same day twice. And she always enjoys any time she can to spend out in the mud with the bugs. Meredith is always there to jump in and help staff and appreciates the teamwork and commitment. And for me as a new CAO, I have appreciated that Meredith has gladly shared her knowledge, her expertise, and her networks with me. Meredith is a treasure trove of Orca artifacts in her office. Everything from old uniforms to old reports to an old Walkman and an old cassette tape of bird songs. But what I actually enjoyed the most of Meredith's artifacts is her first identity card that she had here when she started with Orca as her watershed planning coordinator. And it's complete with a picture of Meredith. So please join me in thanking Meredith for her contributions at Otonabee Conservation for 25 years. And Meredith, would you like to say a few words?
I would love to. Thank you so much, Jeanette, for those kind words. And I'm so grateful to have been able to spend 25 years with Otonabee Conservation. It's such a wonderful organization, and I've had the opportunity to work with so many amazing colleagues, directors, and community partners. We heard from Dr. Piggott how it's so important for everyone to work together, and this is a planetary problem. And I truly feel that my work here helps me save the world every day. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Meredith. And congratulations. And for our last staff award, we have Denise. So Denise Landry has been with Otonabee Conservation for 25 years. There she is. Hi, Denise. And Denise currently holds the position of Manager of Corporate Services. And Denise first started here at Orca as the finance administrator in August of 1998. So it's fair to say that 1998, when Kim started, Meredith started, and then Denise started, was a good year for Orca. Denise is proud of her learning and development over the many years here with Orca. She has been very successful in completing numerous courses, diplomas, and training sessions. And she's also received several awards for her very high marks, something that she doesn't brag about, but she's very proud of. And Denise has also been very instrumental in taking on the acting CAO role twice over that time. Denise's work ethic, her desire to contribute to building a healthy, professional corporate culture and promoting teamwork are the values and cornerstones for her. For me as a new CAO, Denise has been, again, supportive of my own learning curves here at Orca, and I thank her for that. When asked what artifacts Denise still treasures today, she smiled and pulled out an adding machine that has paper roll tape. Denise has also served as a co-chair for our Health and Safety Committee and thrives on the diversity of her work and engagement with her colleagues. And Denise has also served on Conservation Ontario's committees, including chairing some of those committees, such as insurance, employee benefits, and many others over the years. So please welcome me in congratulating Denise on 25 years of service here at Otonabee Conservation. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you. Karen's holding up my award because I left it in the office and I live in Belleville, so I couldn't actually go back and get it to bring it to this meeting. So thank you very much, Karen. And thank you for the award. It's beautiful. I just wanted to say I love my job. I've loved being here for 25 years. It's gone by so fast. Like Kim, I won't be here for another 25 years, maybe 2. But I've loved working with the wonderful staff and the wonderful leaders, and it's just been a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Denise. And just closing off our staff awards, again, just recognizing the fact that the 5 staff represent 95 plus years of experience, dedication, commitment here at Otonabee Conservation. So congratulations to Matt, Bruce, Kim, Meredith, and Denise for your dedication here. We have all been the beneficiaries of that. Thank you very much. So Mr. Chair, that ends my portion of tonight's meeting. And I believe we actually have one of our other award winners still with us tonight.
Yeah, we'll see if Mr. Crawley can connect one last time. I don't know if you can turn on your video and unmute yourself, Robert.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, one more second. It says your video cannot start because the host has stopped it. So
you
may not be able to see me, but
see if Karen can
start my video. Here we go.
Start your video.
There we go.
There you go, Robert.
All right, thank you.
Well, congratulations on your award. Your 4,500 trees is a fantastic start.
Yeah, it's been quite a process, but anyways, if I have a couple minutes, I'd like to say a few words. This is my award. Thank you very much. It's sort of blurred out. It's a beautiful picture of some trees and the sun shining through, which is pretty appropriate for my projects. If I could just put it into context for you a little bit, I'm honored and humbled to receive the award, and I thank you to Orca and my nominators. I suggest it's probably Meredith and Paul who nominated me for the award, and I'm surprised that my efforts in my project were enough to receive an award like this. But to put it in context, my property is 100 acres in Otonabee on the gravelly line. It's basically on a drumlin, a long sloping hill to the east, and then it drops off fairly quick from there. 85 acres workable, 15 sort of marginal, and that was kind of the area that I was sort of focusing on. When I took over the farm in 2002, we've farmed it for about 170 years, very much the same way. It was always a beef farm. The land always got beaten down. We had a wetland over the end of this drumlin, a seasonal wetland, and it was always, basically used for watering cattle and whatnot. So when I took over the farm in 2002, the first 8 years or so, I did very much a similar thing. I was farming just as a hobby farm, but I did it very similar to the way my dad did. I sort of moved the cows in and out of the pastures. We used that seasonal wetland as a place to water, a little watering hole for the cattle. There was virtually void of trees, except for the fence rows and whatnot. And I farmed for 8 years. And if you remember back in May 20, 2003 was the first case of BSE. It was a really terrible time to start beef farming for all of its problems. Normally, that was a particularly bad time to start. So I farmed for virtually nothing for about 8 years. And I thought, this is probably a very expensive hobby. So I got out of it and I started to leased my land out to a local dairy farm to do some cropping, but I still had this 14 acres down in this sort of swale and wetland. And that's kind of where my conservation really started. And I thought, well, you know, I've already got a wetland. I started to work with Ducks Unlimited. In 2010, we put in a beautiful pond, probably about 2 acres in size, and immediately waterfowl, migratory birds, everything sort of started to flood the area and flood the pond. And that was a great start. And I thought, okay, I've still got this 14 acres of really marginal land. And I started to plant trees. And probably since 2008, every year I've planted trees between 200 and the most I planted in 1 year was 5,000. It's white cedar, white pine, white spruce, a few different species to try and get them growing. I tried some hardwoods, didn't go that great. But anyways, every year we've basically tried to grow trees. And sometimes, you know, if you remember from 2016 on, as what I remember anyways, terrible droughts. And so some of those blocks of trees were decimated. And, you know, we come back in the fall and we plant in the fall and just sort of keep at it. And slowly we start to see growth. And I'm really excited about the number of trees that are growing there right now. And it was probably, you know, I could say that without the support of Orca and meeting Meredith and Paul, you know, a few years ago, I don't think I would have had the drive to kind of keep going, because there were some low points there where I planted thousands of trees and thousands of trees didn't make it. But they were very encouraging, very professional. It's clear that they're passionate about conservation, and they provided some financial support, and we also brought in some school groups to help plant. And those were the biggest plantings a couple of years ago. We kind of battled through COVID with it too, but we planted, you know, 2,500 trees in the spring, then we planted another 2,500 in the fall. And, you know, I'm pleased to say that they're really taking off. So I'm super excited about that. You know, going forward, I see myself just sort of continually planting trees. The water environment's going very well. There's lots of habitat coming in there. I'm hoping to attract deer, lots of species into the area. Perhaps I'll plant some fruit trees and some different hardwoods and maybe bring some honeybees in, that sort of thing. But anyways, I got lots of little projects on the go, but without the help of Orca, I don't think I would be where I am. And so I'm truly appreciative of your support, and thank you very much for the award. And I appreciate it. Thanks. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Robert. I hope your work continues.
Yeah,
I'm very passionate about it. That's fantastic. All right. Well, with that, I'd like to, first, I'd like to say 95 years of service between those 5 employees still has my my head scratching a little bit. And it goes to show as, you know, board of directors come and go, but the staff is always there. And Orca wouldn't be what Orca is if it wasn't for, you know, the incredible dedication that the staff. We're extremely fortunate to have our staff members that we do. But thank you very much to all of them. And thank you to everybody for attending tonight's meeting, and everybody on YouTube for watching. Special thanks to Karen and Meredith for our technical coordination of our virtual AGM, making it run so smooth. Thank you to Jeanette for all your hard work for putting this together, for all our board members for showing up this evening, and to our presenter, Dr. Piggott, for his very inspirational words and his great enthusiasm for our area. Again, another congratulations to all of our Environmental Excellence Awards and staff members. And a huge thank you to all the other Orca staff members who valuable hard work that they perform day to day definitely does not go unnoticed. And with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn the meeting. So I would like the board members to please return. A little anxious there, Gary. We got to wait for everybody to come on. I think we got him. So move the motion to adjourn by Gary, second by Ron. All in favor? So approved. Thank you. That concludes our 2023 AGM. Thank you, Jeanette, and everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well done.